Hello, welcome to training video number 8, which is a lecture on anatomy. So I will make a really brief lecture on anatomy seen through my experiences with emotional anatomy. And I will make this in the format of like a 5 minutes lecture. And for you guys who saw training video number 6, I think it was, where I went through stealing a lecture, you might remember the 3 hand gestures, which I will try to use also in this one. So we have the waving hand, we have the pointing to myself, and the pointing finger. I will see if I manage to use these as well. Okay, so here we go. Oh, fuck. I have to find it back. Here it is. So, okay. A lecture on anatomy. If anatomy tells the story of how bodies is constructed, then this lecture maybe rather tells the story about how anatomy is constructed. I'm thinking that anatomy is experienced by us through imagining or imaging an inside according to an outside description and image. So human anatomy is most of the time understood as that which is existing inside of a body that is described to us by science, like medicine and biology. And what I learned from, like what I know about anatomy is basically what I learned in school when I was a kid, or through dance education and dance training, and that kind of anatomy you learn in somatic practices and like physiotherapy and stuff. And in school, well, I guess I basically learned anatomy through like looking at pictures which had names of what different stuff were called, like the different systems names, or like numbers. It was like the really old school kind of, you read and you read again and you learn a name and you copy it, and it's just kind of learning through repetition kind of thing. In dance school, I learned about anatomy in a much more like experiential approach somehow. Like anatomy is often connected to an idea of how to move, like, or how one should move somehow. So like if my skeleton is constructed like this and that, thus it's good, natural, there's a reason for me in move or in this or that way. Or like since this muscle connects to here, I have to relax over here in order to use that muscle, and so on. So there's some kind of constructed logic based on anatomy about how one should move, effortless or organic or whatever like the ideal of that training type is somehow. And it was still like partly connected, or like partly learned through images, like you sometimes looked at images, but it was a lot also just like touching other people or feeling your own body, or it was basically like much more experiential and sense based. Most of it also relating to skeleton or muscles, like you learned less about like the blood system, or I don't know, like nervous system or other kind of anatomic systems. So now, what interests me in anatomy is how this knowledge about the inside of our body, about our anatomy, is mainly constructed through an outside imagery. So parts about our anatomy we can know through sensing or experience it. Like I could feel my lungs, I could feel the air going in and out, I could feel my heart beating, etc. It's a bit more difficult to like feel the liver or the ovaries or the brain. So you kind of like, for example, like when my heart beats, I can feel it. I can kind of feel it contracting and releasing. But how do I know that that is what it is doing? Like, how do I know that it looks like this and that's what's happening? Like, what is it that makes me connect the feeling of heartbeats to the look of a heart and how it functions? So it's somehow how I have internalized the description of the heart and its function and its looks, which makes me really able to experience that, yes, that's what's going on. So like, because I'm told it's so, I can really experience that it is so somehow. So the construction of anatomy is kind of a scientific image internalized, and it's a totally embodied truth. And I guess like a lot of knowledge is, in a way. Like, you also know that the world, like the earth is round, although I can't like really see it at first hand or very direct, I still know that this is the truth and I act according to it. But what interests me a little bit with anatomy is that anatomy is also so close. Like, it's not even like really, really close to me. It's like, it's me. And so basically it is me, and I still can't see it. Like, it's not directly apprehensible to me somehow. Anyways, the project I kind of embarked on in the emotional anatomy is to construct another anatomy based on the materialization of emotions. So this one goes to creating anatomy in like several rounds somehow, where I start from sensing and imagining. So if you compare it, for example, with body-mind centering, where you usually look at a picture, you describe how the organ looks like, and then you go over to like feeling it inside yourself or touching it or moving in order to kind of feel it. Here I try to start from like just first-hand imagining and sensing it. From that point, we go to describing it, so actually like materializing it in words, putting it into language, which gives this kind of external image of what it is, and then kind of putting that back, so using that description in order to be able to feel, to experience these capacities that you have already described somehow. And then as a last step, we also draw it on a map, which you could also see in a previous video, so to really get like a visual image of this anatomy. Like kind of anatomic charts you see in books and stuff. So emotional anatomy always stays within fiction. Now it's using a mix of kind of scientific language and somatic language and the kind of procedures that they use, but very much as a method of being able to recognize the system. We know how these systems work. We know science, we know somatics, we know training, and through kind of using the same kind of reference or something, it's a way to really like, you kind of know what to do. It's a way of just getting it through a metaphorical similarity. So some people I know find this kind of sarcastic or even ironic, but I rather use this kind of fakeness or illusion as a tool for action, as a way of doing. So it's a way of like being able to ignore scientific facts in favor of imagination, and just kind of acknowledge the power of that which we can't see, but that is hidden. It is hidden from us, but still like really residing within, without being metaphysical or religious or something, or essentialistic perhaps. It is something that we don't know what it is, but it's still like really part of us. It's a different anatomy in that sense. That was my brief lecture on anatomy, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.